Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 158 of Humanity Rising. Virtually every day since the 22nd of May, Ubiquity University and a coalition of over 350 partnering organizations from literally all over the world, and I think some 120, 130 countries, have come together to provide an open space here on Zoom for free between 5 and 6:30 p.m. Central European time, so that people globally could come together to share their experiences, what it's like navigating through this unbelievable pandemic, to talk about the solutions they would offer and scale, and how to increase our strategic effectiveness. Today is the last day before we break for the holidays. And I want to say, as someone who's been on, I think, every single session, what a moving experience it's been to, first of all, be with all of you. Some of you who've been on virtually every session with us, some coming in and out. I think we've had over 700 speakers all together over every conceivable issue confronting the human race right now, from politics and culture and science and ecology. It's been an amazing journey. And that is what Humanity Rising has been about. As we go through the eye of the needle of this pandemic that has challenged our world in ways that we've not been challenged in a very, very long time. Our economies have been shut down. We've been forced into our homes by fiat of the government. And we are engaging at levels that were strange at the beginning, like social distancing, wearing face masks, being in lockdown. And all kinds of triggers in our psyches have been activated. We've seen extraordinary political events, from the killing of George Floyd, who died saying, "I can't breathe," to Donald Trump doing everything he could and can as he continues to try to subvert the democratic process in the United States. We've seen the pandemic seemingly conquered in a number of countries, only to have the pandemic come roaring back. We've seen other countries like the United States go completely out of control and have COVID rates and COVID deaths far in excess to the percentage of population to the larger world population. Over the last several days, deaths in the US alone have been over 3,000. That's the equivalent to one 9/11 every day. And it looks like that number is going to increase, but certainly stay over 3,000 every 24 hours for the foreseeable future. Vaccines are now under final experimentation and approval. They've begun to be implemented in a number of countries. We'll see the degree to which the vaccines do, in fact, rid us of the virus that has been peculiarly adaptive and seemingly intelligent in its persistence in demanding that humanity pause and take stock of itself and consider carefully the way forward. We've seen amazing successes. The first one, which we've mentioned a number of times, was when Amsterdam as a city in May, in the midst of the pandemic, said that they were going to embrace donut economics and put human well-being at the center of public policy. And within a very short period of time, scores of other cities, regions, and even a few countries said that they were going to follow suit, including the city of Copenhagen and cities in Latin America and Asia and around the world. We saw in October the people of Chile throw out the constitution of Pinochet, implemented in the 1970s when he overthrew, with US CIA support, the democratically elected government of Salvador Allende, a draconian constitution. And the new constitution is going to embrace, for the first time in human history, the mandate that the governance mechanisms be 50% women and 50% men for Chile moving forward. We've seen things even at a smaller scale, but still massive, which I mentioned yesterday, of the New York's state pension fund, one of the biggest pension funds in the world, $226 billion fund, that announced, the first pension fund to do so, that it was going to de-invest in any oil and gas, anything having to do with fossil fuels, to be completed by 2025. So in the midst of the pandemic, as we've said a number of times, things have gotten worse and worse, better and better, faster and faster. We're in an incredible juncture in human history, where scientists are telling us we're running out of time, to a large degree because of the way we've despoiled the environment and unleashed climate change and biodiversity decimation. And yet we want to at the same time celebrate. We want to celebrate this time of year. So we will be contemplating the magic and mystery and meaning of trees, everyone, at a time when many people put up the Christmas tree and trees in various shapes and sizes and colors and styles, literally all over the world. And we thought, since today is Hanukkah and the festivities of the end of the year have begun worldwide, that rather than a heart coherence meditation, we would celebrate with a song. So I'd like to introduce Franz Bloom, who's a good friend, a Dutchman, who's been a musical performer, an artist and songwriter for many, many years, has traveled around the United States, Mexico, all over Europe, performing. And he offered on this final session to sing us a song so that we could commence our final session with a musical accompaniment. So I want to thank you, Franz, for your offer. And now, kind sir, sing us a song.
Franz, would you turn on your video, please? Nope, wrong Franz.
That's me.
Yeah, I'm going to turn yours off.
Turn me off, yes.
Franz, would you turn on your video, please?
I think that was Franz.
No, that was somebody else.
Mm.
Franz, you need to turn on your video and unmute yourself Well, maybe what we'll do is we might catch you toward the end of the program, Franz. I'm sorry, somehow it's not connecting up.
Yeah, he's not there, Jim, so I'd move on.
Okay. All right, everyone. Sorry about that. We may get Franz later in the program. Everything seemed to be working when we were in the green room, but technology happens from time to time. So I want to begin our discussion with Clare Dubois today, who has been very active in the environmental movement and the founder of TreeSisters that has planted, I think, 14 million trees in various parts of the world and been very active within that very specific sector of trees. But I think it's worth, just as we begin our contemplation of trees, particularly at the level of our spiritual development, it's worth just remembering the, I would say, deep interconnectivity between spirituality and trees. You know, if you think of the Genesis story, it was around a tree that Adam and Eve gained consciousness. There were two trees in the garden, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it was around those two trees that human destiny at the very beginning was worked out. It's worth remembering that Jesus of Nazareth was crucified on a tree, so that the central event that ignited the Christian religion, somehow the tree was an integral part. One thinks of the birth and life of the Buddha. When it came time to give birth to the Buddha's mother leaned against a tree. She was on her way home and didn't make it. She stopped the chariot and leaned against a tree. And Gautama Siddhartha just dropped from her womb and took 7 steps, it is said, as she stayed leaning against the tree. And on the 7th step announced that he had come to end his incarnations. It was under a Bodhi tree decades later that he gained enlightenment after sitting motionless for 40 days and 40 nights. And when the tempter came to shake his confidence, what did the Buddha do? He just reached his right hand down and his index finger touched the earth with his back against the tree, and the tempter melted away. And Buddha died under a tree. Every religious tradition, spiritual tradition, the Kabbalah, think of the tree of life of the Kabbalah. Think of the tree of life in Hinduism. Think of the tree of life at the center of the Mayan calendar. Trees have been profoundly important in human history. And when one thinks that in the last 50 years, we've cut down about 50% of all the trees in the world, as we've decimated 70% of the entire biodiversity, you get a measure of both the meaning of trees, the crisis of trees, and what we humans now have to do to regenerate the sanctity of trees. The New York Times covers today was talking about the sequoias, the mighty sequoias, the redwood trees in Northern California that are now under threat. So Clare, I want to welcome you. You're the woman who knows about trees. And on our final session, we want to just celebrate trees and talk about the mystery and meaning of trees. And I'd like to just start by you introducing yourself more fully and telling us your story of how you got into the movement, how you got into your resonance with trees, and how you came to found TreeSisters. Just talk to us about your relationship with trees. And then toward the end, everyone, Clare is going to offer a meditation, a tree meditation, as we bring 2020 to a close and look forward to 2021. So Clare, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you for presencing the sacredness of trees as we step in. And Franz, I'm sorry you're having a technical moment. Isn't technology just its own thing? Goodness me. You just asked me about 6 enormous questions, and I'm expecting this to be a dialogue, Jim. So I can talk for hours, but that's not what I think would really serve here. I'll just say I'm the founder of TreeSisters. I'm an unlikely founder. I'm an unlikely front person. This was not my life plan, let's put it that way. And but what I am is a nature lover, a total nature lover, and a nature lover who has had my heart broken a million times watching the blind destruction of our world, and who discovered early on that the way to move beyond the fear that holds us back from bringing our gifts is to let our heart break. Is to let ourselves care enough about something, anything, as we watch it struggling, to allow our love to call us forward into our leadership, whatever that looks like. So my journey with trees, gosh, I mean, it started as a child. I think possibly if all of us think about our childhood, there will be a tree. There'll be a specific tree that was part of our growing up, a safe place, a beloved place, a hiding place. And mine was a huge beech tree that had like a second floor to it, and you could walk around, and I would hang out in this tree and talk to this tree and sing to this tree and be with it from as soon as I was big enough to actually climb up into it. That was my place. And I knew that there were other beings that were living in that tree. And so I had a very strong sense of companionship with trees from a very early age, like 5 years old, 6 years old. And it's where I would go when I was distressed. I've always been somebody that has to go up, whether it's up a mountain or up a tree. It's like I always feel like if I can get up, then I can get a different perspective on things. And trees are such an up, you know, as soon as you're up, you get a different perspective. And but it wasn't until, I don't know when actually. I mean, I remember at school 30 plus years ago, seeing climate change on the front page of The Independent and wondering then what was going to happen. And it's so shocking to me that 30 years later, this gap that we have had within which we could have done so much, so little has actually been done, and the impact on our world has been so colossal. And when it comes to trees, you know, back in 2014, the New York Declaration on Forests said that by 2020, we would have halved deforestation. And by 2030, it would be over. Well, all that's happened since then is rates of deforestation have increased. And in fact, during COVID, it's been the fastest increase yet. So it's gone up 66% this year under lockdown. It's just like every which way we turn, nature loses. So TreeSisters itself was given to me in a car crash. I'll tell the story just because the invitation of it is relevant to each of us. I'd initially been working for an agroforestry initiative in southern India called Project Green Hands. And I was I was there because I'd gone through the Pachamama Alliance's Awaken the Dreamers Symposium, which basically has you looking for a spiritually fulfilling, socially just, ecologically sustainable human presence on this world. And the first thing that I had found that brought all those three things together was Project Green Hands in India, where they were basically trying to reforest 114 million trees to stave off the desertification that was happening because the monsoons have failed. This was years ago. And I had been distilling the social strategy because I just kept thinking we need a reforestation revolution in the West. We need, like, not just to wait for technology to save us or for somebody else to save us, but for us to understand that our future is in our collective hands and that our relationship with nature is in our collective hands. And that if every single person rebuilt their relationship with trees and if everybody was funding tree planting every month, then we could do it incredibly fast. So I was on my way to a communications meeting in London where I was going to hand my 7-step strategy to this team to say, can you please do a reforestation revolution in England and then the rest of the world? And I swerved on ice and I was heading for an edge and a tree stopped me, which is the ultimate metaphor from life, that trees can stop humanity going over an edge. And as I hit the tree, there's a blinding flash of white light inside the car, and inside that white light are 2 words, the experiment, literally hanging in front of my face. So I'm wrapped around a tree, looking at these words, wondering what the hell. And this voice says to me, literally as if someone's sitting in the car. It's like somebody turned the radio on, it was that loud. And it was a male voice, which is thoroughly annoying, frankly, when somebody gives you a job like this. And it just said, humanity is running out of time, but it's not over yet. It's going to take all of us rising to the challenge to get through what's coming. The single greatest threat facing humanity is fear of failure. You can get over fear of failure by calling everything you do an experiment, because you can't fail an experiment. You can only learn. Which, even wrapped around a tree, I thought was pretty brilliant. And I said, what's the experiment? And back came, you have to reforest the tropics within 10 years. Following on from that, it was this complete download, including, your project is called TreeSisters. You have to make it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take nature for granted. That was huge, absolutely huge. It said, women are the missing piece. The women are the womb carriers and earth is womb. Women and nature share a common history. What's been done to one has been done to the other. Feminine consciousness is the consciousness of life cycles, of seasons, of nature. It seeks health, it seeks balance, it seeks harmony, it's collaborative, it's circular. There was all this information coming in that I couldn't say no to. It was like, yes, yes, yes. Relationship is core to how we act in our world. The feminine principle is ultimately our capacity to feel how things are so that we know what to do. And it ended with, women have to remember who and what they are. Feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. And this was after it literally said, your project is called TreeSisters. It's a crowdfunding mechanism. Everybody needs to be, everybody that's warming the world needs to be actively cooling the world. You do that by funding tropical reforestation. You're gathering a portfolio of projects. And I mean, it was like sitting there, just taking notes over my life's work. This is what it's going to be. And that's where it started. I mean, my love of trees had always been there, but I was given a job and I tried not to do it. I said no in great style. It was just like, I'm terribly sorry. You've got the wrong person. I can't do it. I'm an introvert. I'm not a front person. I've never worked for a company in my life. I can't do this. I mean, there was the only qualification I had for the job was I love nature. That's it. That's it. And I was quite brave in some ways when it came to my inner world, but I was completely not brave when it came to the outside world. And I just was like, no, you're not doing it. I'm not doing it. And even worse was during this time sitting in the car, my life flashed before my eyes backwards and then it flashed forwards. And I saw the possible me on stage as this front person doing this thing. And I knew life was basically saying to me, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay neurotic all your life? Or are you actually going to get over yourself and do something constructive for the world? And I was sat there going, oh no, I'm going to stay neurotic for the rest of my life. Sorry, but that's more important to me than the rest of the world. Like I was inside that dialogue, looking at myself with complete horror, going, really, really, Claire, that's as good as that's all you got. You're going to stay neurotic. And because the whole concept of trying to bring my gifts was so frightening, so frightening. And that's why the genius of call everything you do an experiment, because you can't fail an experiment, that you can only learn. Climate change represents the single biggest gauntlet thrown down by ourselves to bring our gifts at any cost, because everything is on the line. So that's how it started. I'll stop there and hand back over to you, Jim.
Well, that's beautiful, Claire. Thank you. You know, we've all had that moment. You know, do I stay in my little small self, my neurotic self, because that's the only way you stay small, is stay neurotic? Or do I live large? You know, Marianne Williamson has a whole rap around that. What we fear the most is not failure. We fear our success. We fear the strength, the beauty of who we are. So I'd like to dwell on that process with you just for a moment. Lead us through your pathway as you went through this experience in the car, stopped by the tree, white lights. You know, you were going through an epiphany, and yet you thought, I'm just going to stay small. Now, tell us what happened inside yourself, inside your psycho-emotionality, that led you to become who you now are. What was,
I want to go, I'm glad you asked me this, because to me, this is the most important thing on our planet right now. The most important thing on our planet right now is every human being being willing to make this transition. I want to go back to a previous story, which was, and then I'll come to this, because it was the momentum gleaned from this particular experience that pushed me ultimately over the edge. So back in 2002, I think it was New Year, I was at a workshop, a 5 Rhythms workshop, and it was New Year's Eve, and I was forced into doing ritual theater, which, because I'm such an introvert, was just like tearing off my skin and dipping me in lemon juice. And they asked my pod to do the rape of the earth. And I was like, oh, fine, that's easy. I'll just be the earth. I'll just get raped. And so they dressed me up in everybody's clothes. I was absolutely enormous, like 6 hats and everybody's coats and all the rest of it. And they put me on a throne, and I was handing out cups of tea, because that's what you do when you're Gaia. You just give. You just give, and you give, and you give. And they raped me. And so they had, there's like 5 people running around me, and they were pulling off my hats and pulling off my clothes and fighting over me and mining me and deforesting me and overfishing me and polluting me. And, you know, I was completely invisible. The Gaia was completely invisible. It was just what humanity could make out of me. And the whole time they were doing this, I was handing out cups of tea like a good mother, you know, abuse me, and I'll just keep giving to you. And then there was this point where I was literally naked. I was sat there, I had nothing on apart from a sock and a scarf, I think it was. And I was supposed to scream and hurl myself on the floor, and everybody was supposed to have a wake up moment. And then they'd put me back on my throne and dress me up. And there was, you know, that was, oh, look, humanity woke up. But I screamed, and I threw myself on the floor, and I lay on the floor. I went stone cold. I went into total shock. And I had this nursery rhyme: all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And I was just like, oh my God, we don't get a second chance. We don't get to put her back on her throne. We can't do this again. If we screw up, we've screwed up. You can't put a planet into therapy. Oh my God, it was just like, it was going round and round and round. And they put me back on my throne, and I'm sat completely numb, looking at the audience. Everyone's in floods of tears. They start dressing me. We're fine. We're done. They literally have to pick me up because I couldn't walk, put me back down on the floor to watch the rest of the theater. Can't remember a thing about it. And then we were given presents. So we had to open these presents. In my early 20s, I started having nightmares about no more clouds, which as a British person is serious, because England does clouds just really, really well. and rain. But I started having nightmares and I became obsessed with clouds because I knew that climate change was coming, and I would draw clouds, photograph clouds, write poems about clouds, paint clouds, and cry about clouds because I was terrified in my 20s about no more clouds and what that meant for the water cycle and for trees. I was given this little blue package. I opened it. It's a blue book with a white cloud on the front, and inside the white cloud, it says, "You can change the world." And it was a book by Mikhail Gorbachev. And I looked at this little book and this cloud, and "You can change the world." And I started bawling. I started sobbing so loudly, I was wondering where the noise was coming from. It was one of those moments where there's just this strange noise and you don't realize that it's you. My body erupted with wailing, and I had to pick myself up and walk out and start to have this dialogue, which is more of the dialogue that I then had at the crash, which is my heart was completely breaking because I had just been Gaia, utterly raped, unseen, unwanted, abused, and finished. And the human part of me was just going, I have to do something. We can't let this happen. I have to do something. I've got to do something. And then my ego was saying, you can't do anything. You're nobody. You're nothing. Nothing you can do will ever work. What are you even thinking about? And I was thinking, but my planet is dying. I love my planet. There's going to be no more clouds. There's going to be no more trees. Shut up. There's nothing you can do that's going to be worthwhile to anybody. Don't do it. And I was starting to get hysterical between these two parts of myself. And then it ratcheted up and it became womankind saying, we can't let this happen on our watch. Like the feminine was saying, there is the feminine energy, like the consciousness of plants, the consciousness of life. And then up would come patriarchy and say, get back down. You've got nothing to bring. Don't you understand who's in control? And up she'd come again. And it ratcheted up and up and up until I had this like completely archetypal dialogue screaming inside me of life saying, do something. And the shadow saying, you can do nothing. And in the end, I was left going, you know what? I don't care what you say. I have to do something. And that was when my path shifted. And I started looking for the thing that would be the thing that would make sense of this incarnation for me. So then when I have this flipping car crash and life says, here you are, here's your job. And I say, no, I'm terribly sorry, that's not it. I was simultaneously right back in that experience of, Claire, you gave your life. In that moment, you gave your life. You flipping cat, come on. And I was just like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I there was nothing in me that was available to say yes to going out front because I had a very misogynistic father. I was absolutely taught that being visible was physically dangerous. My programming was stay small at any cost to stay safe, which is a very classically feminine experience in a patriarchal world. And my nervous system was basically saying, you do that, you die. And my soul was saying, you don't do that, we're all going to die. What's it going to be, Claire? Who's going to win? And then there was this thing about doing something for women. It's like, I don't want to do something for women. I don't understand women. I don't even like being a woman. Why would I do something for women when it's everybody that's needed in the response to climate change? Like, we need everybody. We don't just need women. I'm not, And then I was just like, well, who am I going to be more attacked by? The men who are pissed off that I'm doing something for women, the women who are pissed off because they're afraid of being attacked by the men. Where's the more shit going to come from at me, basically? And I was like, I just can't do it. So I avoided it for 9 months. I got horribly depressed. It was like one of those moments where life shines the light and all your shadows come up. I lived in this place of being completely confronted by my neuroticism, my fear, my insecurity, my low self-esteem, my lack of belief, and the fact that I was knowingly letting that win, having had this 6 years or however much it was, looking for this thing that would make sense of me. And so I tried 3 different projects during that time, all tree-based, because I said yes to the trees. I just didn't say yes to the women. They all failed. They all started gloriously and then failed, like really abruptly. And it was like every time I started, the door slammed, even quicker. And the last time it slammed so badly, I was just like, okay, I get it. I'm doing something wrong. Tell me what it is. And this voice came back, the exact same voice. Only it happened twice in my life. And it said, you can do all of that, but you do it through the women. And I said, all right, tell me what a tree sister is. And he said, it's someone that makes 5 choices to be considerate of life, encouraging of her sisters, intimate with nature, responsible for its upkeep, and courageous with her gifts. I ran home, I drew a 5-pointed star, and I said, where do they belong? Consideration in the head, encouragement in the left arm, intimacy in the left leg, responsibility in the right leg, courage in the right arm. I looked at it, it vaguely made sense to me, didn't really think any more of it, went to bed, woke up in the middle of the night and just went, oh my God, that's 5-element acupuncture for consciousness. And I looked at it and it suddenly, it just made sense. Feminine principle down the left, masculine principle down the right, the flow of energy from the awakened mind to the awakened heart to the awakened body, putting self, other, and nature into dynamic relationship through the feminine principle. Self, other, and nature as sacred. When that is the flow of energy through a human self, the first masculine principle is the 4th, not the 1st. And it's in response to the sacredness of self, other, and nature. So our action arises out of deep relationship with the sacred. That action brings us closer to ourself because we're in relationship with all that is, which brings you into your courage, which is the 5th place, which is your love given on behalf of life. And then through that, it brings you back to the awakening. So there's this virtuous circle that's inside of our system. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, the feminine has to come first. We're upside down. In a world that puts the masculine action first at the expense of all relationship, we're going to burn ourselves and our planet out. And it was that logic which kind of validated why we have to bring feminine consciousness back up, and why feminine leadership, that's not better than masculine leadership. Not if masculine leadership is an honest counterpart, not a patriarchal put down or dominance. But if the feminine and the masculine can operate together, then relationship with life can teach us how to live in a way that basically husbands the planet back into health again. And that was the point that I just said, okay, all right, I get it. I don't know how to do it. There's no longer an excuse. You're going to have to help me every step of the way. I'm kicking and screaming. I've never not kicked and screamed all the way through, because when you're trying to turn an introvert into something else, then every reason our nervous systems tell us to stay small is another layer of suppressed trauma that is asking to be alchemized into liberated life force. Every time your system says no, there's a yes on the inside that shows you more of who you are and allows you to move further away from your ego, closer to the magnificence of an awakened being in relationship with all that is. So our fears are not just not excuses, they're signposts to our brilliance. They're signposts to our soul. They're asking for us to be worth enough, to love enough, to release the traumas and then the stories that we've embedded in our psyches, which are the reasons why we keep ourselves small. The whole lot need to go. They just have to go. We don't have time to stay identified with our traumas. We've all got them. We've all gone through hell on some level or other. It's our training ground. It's our muscle growing. It's inside all of those things are the exact tools we need to manifest ourselves as human beings on this planet at this time where we've incarnated, where we either get to have an evolutionary bounce or an evolutionary crash. This is it. Every part of us is needed now. And that's been what Tree Sisters has been for me. 15 million trees, great. Women are all around the world doing stuff, great. For me personally, it got me over myself. And it will continue to get me over myself. Until I die, I would imagine I will be discovering new comfort zones to fall across, kicking and screaming. And actually, honestly, these days now, I look for them. I look for them because I am so much more invested in being useful and being liberated and being unafraid and being love learning how to love and be loved in a world of love than I am hooking back into my fears and hooking back into the fear construct that humanity's got, you know. So that's that, and the fact that every time I said, I can't do it, my team just said, you can't fail, it's an experiment. And I just thought, you know, Spirit was so good saying that first before everything else. You just can't fail. There is no such thing as failure. There's only learning. It takes away all our excuses, you know, all our excuses. So that's how I did it, with a lot of crying and a lot of snot and a lot of resistance. a lot of snot. It's a highly underrated substance in my humble opinion.
Well, you know, it's worth just remembering, you know, in the book of Hebrews, it says that Jesus learned obedience through his suffering. And this was just coming up for me, Claire, the deep, you know, the lines from Aeschylus, you know, drop by drop, pain that cannot forget falls upon the heart, until in our despair, against our will, comes wisdom by the awful grace of God. And each kind of chapter of your story, I just feel the kind of the agony of choice and the insecurity of who we are in relationship to what we're called to be. And you know, the maturation of the soul, you know, doesn't happen in one go. And so I just want to appreciate the tenacity of your spirit to kind of step by
Keep
step,
going,
drop by drop, you know, as Chekhov says, drop by drop, we squeeze the slave out of ourselves. And so that's beautiful, because we're all in it.
We're all in it.
You can feel it in humanity, that we're laboriously squeezing that slave out of ourselves so that we can get to the yes that's embedded, as you brilliantly said, in every single one of our no's.
My mum used to say, where did you come from? Like, where do you get that drive, like that absolute drive? And she used to say that, and I didn't used to have an answer for her, but then it was just like, I am fundamentally dissatisfied. I'm very dissatisfied.
Yeah.
And I'm dissatisfied with myself because, you know, when I had that car crash and I saw into my future and I saw myself on stage in front of thousands, and I was just like, you have got to be kidding, you know, like not in a million years. And then I had to just go, you know, it was so confronting to be just like, oh, okay, you're choosing smallness. You know, oh, okay, you're just choosing smallness. Well, that's a really impressive incarnation, isn't it? You know, not on behalf of anybody else, but on behalf of your soul is saying there is so much more and you're saying no to it. Well, what the hell was the point of incarnating? You know, and that part of me has been there from the beginning, because I was crippled by my father, completely crippled. I mean, he crippled me in just about every way. I was very mentally ill in my early 20s. And I couldn't walk through closed doors. I couldn't walk down aisles of planes and buses. Half the time I couldn't walk down the street. I was terrified of anyone and everything. I couldn't dance. I couldn't sing. I couldn't bring my voice. I could, you know, and I remember climbing Mount Sinai, and this man who climbed the mountain with me, getting to the top and just saying, I want to hear your voice. And he just let out this enormous, like, la, and it rang across all these amazing mountains into the distance. And I was just like, wow. And he was like, come on, let's hear your voice. And I went, ah! Like nothing came out. And I was like, oh my God. And then, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath, and you know, this like complete strangled throat. And I was up there until they forced me to come down, and I couldn't make a sound. And I was crying, I was raging. And it was like, it was in that high place, me and my high places, in that high place, all I could see were the ways in which I was crippled. I was just in cage upon cage upon cage around my body, around my emotions, around my psyche, around my, like everything was in a cage. And it was just like, that's it, I'm done, no more cages. And I came down the mountain and I signed up for a 5 rhythms class and I screamed my way through it. And I climbed up for singing classes and I screamed my way through them. And I became somebody that basically said, if I've got a fear, I'm going to find the worst possible way of crossing it, and I'm going to cross it, and I'm going to do it consciously. And I did it as an act of defiance initially to my father. It started off as a, you know, I'm damned if you're going to have this much of an effect on my life. But it became an experiment in understanding the mechanism of alchemizing trauma, understanding how much of ourselves is atrophied. It's like you're the river, but you're also the dam that you've put in your own river to try and keep yourself safe. And that dam is as much your own life force as the river is. And we're so attached to our dams, you know, but rivers aren't designed to be dammed. Rivers are designed to be free flowing. But I can't be free flowing because what if I'm too much? Well, you're supposed to be too much. This is your incarnation. You're supposed to be everything that you are. But if you stay dammed up, how the hell are you ever going to discover what you're made of? So then this thing of what's the dam? Like, how do I find the dam? How do I alchemize the dam? Well, you just live your life as fully as possible until you hit a comfort zone that says, oh, don't go there. There's your dam. Then you can either cross, like just do the thing. So for me, it was like at the end of a workshop when everyone was going, oh, thank you very much. That was really meaningful, blah, blah, blah. I would sing it because that was a much more frightening way of doing it until I sweated. And then I'd go into a major contraction afterwards of, oh my God, what does everybody think of me? Then I'd sit in that and go, here it is. Here's the dam. Self-judgment, externalized, projected. Okay, sit in the feelings, give it your full consciousness, make your way through the discomfort, transform it with presence. Don't try and change it, just feel it out of existence. And the beauty of the TreeSisters map, which is this 5-pointed star, intimacy to courage. It's the cross line in the 5-pointed star from the left leg to the right arm. Intimacy to courage. The depth to which you are willing to feel what is asking to be felt is like, there should be a physics formula, is sort of directly equal to the amount of courage that will be liberated as the love that you are is valued enough to be allowed to express its grief and its rage and its horror of what's happening in the world. And you will not be able to take action. If you don't let yourself cry, your heart will stay completely limited. If you can look at the sequoias and go and talk to them, I'll cry just talking about it. And imagine a world without giant sequoias. Imagine a world without redwoods. You know, where I am in the foothills of California, 5 of our primary species are dying as we speak. The trees are leaving. The trees are leaving our world. If you can imagine a world without trees, you will cry. And if you cry, and then you let yourself keep crying and you don't just stop, if you let your love of the trees have its way with you, like break your heart open, you will not be able to take action. Because finally, you've let that part of yourself close. You've come into relationship with something utterly sacred that is actually you. Trees aren't just out there. We're breathing with them every day. We're full of trees on the inside, whether it's our brains or our lungs or our immune systems or our nervous systems. We're trees all the way through the inside of us. Like everything on the outside is just replicated on the inside. We're breathing their oxygen. You know, we are indivisible. And the only reason we can do to our world what we do to our world is because we are not letting ourselves feel our indivisibility. And if you don't feel your relationship, you can trash it. You can watch these trees just coming down and burning and not feel. And yes, it's easier. It's much easier to watch the destruction of our world and ourselves and not feel a damn thing, because then you can stay completely irresponsible. And then you miss the fundamental gift of this incarnation for you completely, which is to allow our intimate relationship with nature to crack us open into the fullness of ourselves as nature, and then move into reverence in such a way that all our behaviors shift, and we get to have the opportunity to create a humanity, a version of this culture that cannot destroy wantonly anymore, that does not put money above life anymore, that actually cares about our children and wants to create a world for them that works, that actually doesn't question, oh, have the tipping points tipped yet? Recognizes that they've all tipped. They've all tipped. Why do we keep on going on as if they're not? And then you listen through your grief to the depths of your soul, and you find out, what am I here for, and how do my gifts serve? And then your whole inner compass swings towards the most meaningful possible life that you can have, and then you start living it.
Beautiful. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. I'd like to just dig in just for a few minutes on some of the other symmetries of your five-pointed star, because it feels to me that you've hit upon something intuitively that is very empowering. This notion of the synchronicity, the synergy between intimacy and courage. It immediately sprang to mind, that great line from the Tao Te Ching, that to be loved gives one strength. To love gives one courage, so that there's this symmetry. So just spend a few more minutes talking about some of the, the right and the left, and the right and the left on each side, and fill out these virtues and qualities that are so necessary for spiritually evolved activists.
Well, I'll go around the circle. I wish I had it here for you, but you're it. So if you think of yourself as a five-pointed star,
yeah,
it's like, was it Michelangelo or Leonardo who did the man
Leonardo.
standing?
Yeah.
It was Leonardo. Sorry, Leonardo. In that amazing symbol, the head is still at the top. The head is still like the supreme being of that. It's still the leader of the system. In a patriarchal system, though, that is, you could call it a tyrant more than a servant leader. The servant leader uses their mind to search for and perceive the truth, to see what is true, and to be in humility before the truth. So it's an open mind that just says, show me. Like if there were two words for this part of the map, it's show me. Like I'm willing to get that this is not what a human being is. I'm willing to get that humanity is not actually a destroyer species or a consumer species. I'm willing to get that we've got it upside down. Like I'm willing, just tell me the truth. That's that place of the open mind. And in our system, we call it reveal. And it's like, what revelation are you willing to make yourself available for? How porous to truth are you willing to be? And so all the meditations that we do inside of TreeSisters, they mostly start with this thing of, can you forget what it means to be a human being? Just drop it. Drop any perception that you know what you're on about. Drop any of the constructs that you've got that just say, this is how it is, or this is how my life is. As soon as you think you know anything, you become a closed system. But as soon as you just say, I know nothing, you become an open system, and the world can go, oh, she's available. Now, there's an opening, quick. Bring in some intuition, bring in some awareness. So reveal is the willingness to receive from the left arm and the left leg. So to receive the wisdom instantly from the heart wisdom, which is, anyone that knows heart math will say that the energy field of the heart is vastly more enormous than the brain anyway. It receives the wisdom from the heart, and it receives the wisdom from the body. So in the five-pointed star, there's this line directly from the left leg to the head, and then from the head down to the right leg. And that is like the body's expression of its own truth and its own needs straight to the mind, and the mind's ability to then direct the activity in relationship to that. So that's like the anti-burnout mechanism. But you have to be listening to your body to be able to understand how to respond to it. Now, in our world of complete and utter physiological, emotional, and ecological trauma, the hardest thing to do is to listen to the body. So the shadow of that is all our addictive tendencies, especially being online. But over shopping, overeating, over anything that numbs you off lives in the shadow of the body. So the mind is the receiver and the transmitter. If it's a tyrant, if it's a patriarch, it just goes, I don't care about the heart and the body. I'm just going to go make money over here. I don't care about relationship with the living world. I'm just going to go and drill it and overfish it and all the rest of it, because there is no actual relationship. So the left-hand side is the feminine principle. The right-hand side is the masculine principle. And the mind in this, or the head, whichever you want to call it, is the part of you that either gets the choice to bow to the feminine or to ignore the feminine. If you bow to the feminine, truly, then you cannot not act as if life matters. Mm. So you don't have to attend to the masculine at all. The masculine will just be a natural fallout of healthy relationship with the feminine. If you ignore the feminine, which we've all been taught to do, we can do anything to this world and watch it burn and just go, wow, look, it's burning. Wow, look, another program on climate change. Wow, look, more people are dying in the Amazon. Wow, should we have pizza for dinner? You know, that's the patriarchal, the internalized patriarch, where we're just completely numbed off because we've been taught to take ourselves, each other, and nature for granted. That's the expression of a patriarchal consciousness that has forgotten what it even means to value the feminine. Feminine just is totally discounted, has been, you know, since prior the witch burnings, but the witch burnings did a huge number on it. So back to reveal. Once you see how things are, now reveal operates from the highest level of I am part of a cosmic being in an experience of oneness, and you know, we're all the same thing here, and somebody else much bigger than all of us is running the show, and we're all part of that, all the way down to the revelation of our world has maybe got 5 years to turn this around. The indigenous peoples are basically saying they can't see beyond 2026. We've got 1 in 5 countries' ecosystems on the absolute verge of collapse. That's all in reveal. Like, what's the truth? How much of the truth are we willing to let in to work on us, so that we move from apathy and entitlement and all the rest of the stuff that lives in the shadow of reveal, which is just like, oh, you know, no, so long as I've got money, I'm going to be fine. Everybody else will sort this out. Or, you know, whatever the story is that keeps us in denial, which, by the way, anybody that's watching, we're done. We're done with denial, like no more, just no time for it. But then from the mind, it's like, okay, if you really take on climate change, the first thing that'll happen is you'll feel overwhelmed, distraught, horrified, impotent. There's only me. I can't do anything. You'll go back into my rape of the earth place of, what can I do? So the next place is the heart. Well, you gather. You find the people around you that you need to help your heart manage what's going on. So the very next step from awakening is community, unity, communion, union. It's the in-breath of the heart, which is our willingness to love and be loved. It's relationship at its most fundamental level. It's the heart in its vulnerability saying, I need a place, I need to be loved, I need to be valued, and I want to value, and I want to love, and I want to be able to. And so this is the place of, in TreeSisters, this is the place of building a global community, because when you can create a culture of emotional safety where you're saying no more shaming, no more judgment, everybody's included, every part of everybody's included. There's no such thing as perfection. We're all neurotic, we're all brilliant, we're all the whole gamut. All, you know, we need all of you here. When you can create a culture where somebody looks at you and says, I get who you are, you're fine, you're safe, everything's welcome, your nervous system can relax. When your nervous system relaxes, then you can start to feel how you are. When we're afraid and contracted, and feeling judged by other people and excluded or rejected or any of those things, we contract, we numb off, we dissociate, we go into that place where you can't feel your body. So in order to feel, in order to come into the physical, the emotional safety is needed, which is why it's reveal, then it's embrace, then it's embody. And embody, the safer we feel at the heart level, the deeper we can feel our physiological state. If we can't feel our physiological state, then we can't respond to it. We can't take action in relationship to it. So responsibility, or activate, the fourth place, which is the right leg in the map, which is the first of the masculine principles, how we live in relationship to self, other, and nature. If you can't feel self, other, and nature, you can't react. So
Gotcha.
what we tend to do, we tend to avoid intimacy. Intimacy, the left leg, that's the key that makes a whole map work, because it's also our plug-in. It's where we get our energy from. We get our energy from being in relationship with the natural world. We get our sense of belonging from belonging to the natural world. When you feel yourself as part of all things, which is why we cannot let the indigenous peoples of our world be snuffed out because they're in the way of profit. Like, cannot, must not, we will not survive without the indigenous peoples of our lands, because they are the ones who still experience their indivisibility. They're our path home. They're our teachers. They're the ones who can help us remember who we are. Indigenous wisdom lives in the left leg of this map. They're holding the sanctity of intimacy with Mother. But it's also our fueling station. It's where the energy comes in. So if you look at the right leg and you look at how we live, well, we live as if nobody is sacred, nothing is sacred. Right now, the major banks of the world are giving 18 billion a year or something to subsidize the different activities in the world that cause deforestation. We are funding our own demise at a fast level right now. Okay, that's an expression of a deficit of consciousness. We can look at it and go, oh, that's crap. But in the 5-element system, if there's a problem, it's because there's not enough energy there. Because if there was sufficient energy there, there'd be sufficient consciousness, and we'd all be going, oh, look, we shouldn't be killing ourselves. That's silly. Why are we destroying the ecosystems upon which all life depends? Oh my God, our kids are inheriting an absolutely appalling future. Let's do something about it, rather than going, okay, if we just get rid of the Amazon, there's all these minerals underneath it, and then we can make the smart technologies that we need, which is we're just nuts. We're completely nuts. Because there's not enough energy in the system. Why? Because the feminine is down. If there was enough awareness about the sacredness of self, about the sacredness of other, and the sacredness of nature, and we were in dynamic relationship at that level, that life force would have been liberated into the right leg, which is the place of action on behalf of life. We would not be able to be living appropriately, because it would be a symptom of a healthy system. So what's beautiful about this map is it's a non-blaming map. It literally looks at our behaviors as a result of not enough energy, not enough consciousness, and then what do we need to do to be able to actually liberate it? So then, if the feminine is flooded with energy and we feel our indivisibility, our actions will start to make sense. That's how we live. So in TreeSisters, the reforestation side of our work lives in the right leg. Responsibility, our ability to respond to the needs of the world. Which, if you look at it from the reveal, okay, we've got very little time to turn this around if we even can. Look at the left arm, look at the global community. How many billions of climate refugees are we going to have any second now? It's already started. Like, people are in major distress all around the world. Look at our planet. Oh my God, 2/5 of all plants are on the verge of extinction. We can ream off the amount of catastrophe that is happening. Are we going to have bees in 2 years? Like, oh, are we losing all our pollinators? Do we have any fish left in the sea? Or do we just have more plastic than anything? You can't not see the truth, but if you don't feel it, you won't act. Then if you do act, all your activities start to bring you back into relationship with life. Everything we do should bring us back into relationship with life. That's the activate. So our gifts make sense. What that does is it starts to create coherence again. That again amplifies your energy. And it brings meaning back in. So then you move from activate to courage, which is the right arm, which is, okay, this is how we live. Now what's mine to do? What is my heart made visible? You know, across the heart line of the map, you've got the support coming in from the community so that the individual you has got the strength behind you to dare to bring your gifts, to dare to show up in a way that helps with the awakening and the coming together and the reconnection so that we can take action, so that we can come into our gifts, so that we can awaken further and come together more coherently. And, you know, it's this virtuous circle. There's a very interesting, the 5-pointed star in the middle, but it's impossible to try and explain it while not having a diagram. But it's a stunningly beautiful map. And it, you know, inside of TreeSisters, we offer this thing called the inner journey, where we take a month for reveal, a month for embrace, a month for embody. We'll start with reveal again in January. It's free. It's just one of our offerings. Taken thousands of people through this thing, and it takes you from apathy to activation or activism.
Yeah.
Because it liberates your life force. We're literally doing it's like conscious acupuncture, except we don't have needles. We just have our willingness to feel. That's it, a willingness to own up to ourselves and feel. That was very long-winded, but there you go.
No, that was beautiful. I know you want to guide people through a meditation, but just before you do that, I'd love to hear your expression about, in the middle of all of this tumult and everything that's going on, speak just for a few minutes about the way that your resonance with the trees as these mystical partners of humanity, how do they inspire you? How do they stabilize you? How do they rejuvenate you? And then speak about that, and then just lead us into your meditation.
Can I talk about trees without crying? Probably not. When you walk into a forest, you're walking into a field of absolute unconditional love. You're walking into a cathedral. It's not just redwoods that produce cathedrals. Any forest that you walk into is a cathedral of absolute sacredness, from deep, deep, deep below your feet to the way that they are 100% given to the sky. If you want a teacher in this world, go to the forest or go to a tree. Go to any tree and ask yourself, does that tree hold itself back? Does that tree say, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to drop all my leaves this year because, you know, what do people think if they see the lumps and bumps on my body? You know, does it say, no, I'm not gonna fully blossom because I might be too much? You know, does it say anything that is other than, I am completely given to the sky. I am totally given to the rain. I'm totally given to whatever life throws at me. I will give my absolute all in every moment. The trees in a forest are communicating with each other in a way that ensures that everybody is fed. Everybody has the minerals that they need. If there's disease coming, they figure out between them what the chemistry is that should be necessary. If you're deciduous and you're coniferous and you're creating carbon at this point and you're not creating carbon, well, I'll feed you carbon. And then when we swap over, you can feed me carbon. And why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? They're doing it because they know that if one tree falls in the forest, then there's a gap in the canopy that the wind can get in and it can start to harm all of them. Because they live as if every single being matters. Not that I matter more than you. I've got more wealth than you, therefore I'm more important. I've got more apples, you know, I've got more carbon. This is not what's going on in a forest. It's just like, how is everybody? Is everybody all right? They give us this they give us this template for unconditional generosity and community. If humanity lived like a forest, we wouldn't be able to have outrageously poor countries. They wouldn't exist, you know, nor would the rich countries be decimating their own resources and heading off to the so-called developing countries to develop them in some hideous way that puts them into debt so that we then get the rights to their resources so that we can trash them as well, so that we can have a convenient lifestyle that kills the future for our children. That is a human construct based out of a patriarchal mindset. But you walk into a forest and it's communion, union, it's mutuality, it's sacredness, it's reverence, it's generosity at the deepest level. You know, and something people don't know is Diana Beresford Kroger taught me this, and I love her. I mean, she's just extraordinary. She's an Irish mystic and one of the most advanced tree scientists on the planet. The terrestrial forests feed the forests of the ocean. So the forests along the coastlines, they, as their leaf litter decomposes, they release fulvic acid, which has a compound of iron in it, which is the only form of iron that the beings of the sea can absorb. Like if you throw iron filings on the ocean, which they want to do for, you know, oxygen reasons or carbon sequestration reasons, apart from just like throwing out the balance of everything, the actual the beings of the ocean can't absorb that kind of iron. They need the terrestrial forests to digest in such a way that they make this iron available. And so the coastal forests and the waterways that carry this iron to the oceans feed the kelp. And the kelp feeds the otters and the sea urchins and the fish and everything else that's in there. If you take the forests away, the kelp forests die. So literally the oceanic forests are dependent on the terrestrial forests. And we think we can just take away the forests. Forests are our rain creators. You know, when you've got a continent and that continent is forested, like when I flew over the Andes a couple of years ago, I looked down, the Andes were completely deforested, and it was just like, holy crap. That, a mountainous forest, that what used to be cloud forest would have been one of the main feeders of water for the Amazon rainforest, which is further inland. But they've stripped it. So suddenly the Amazon is devoid of this massive amount of rainfall that is created by these trees. And what happens is, if you're a continent and you're forested, those trees are transpiring, respiring, you know, through photosynthesis. They're releasing a huge amount of water vapor. That updraft of water vapor pulls in, draws in the moisture from the oceans. So they draw in the moisture, and then they start this process of you know, flowing the water through their bodies, and up it goes and down it comes, and up it goes and down it comes. How many of us look at the rain and go, oh, it's raining. Damn, especially if you're English. How many of us go, oh my God, this is pure tree filtered water that's gone through the body of a tree so many times. This is like a miracle falling from the sky, you know, completely purified. Like we just don't understand our interrelationship with things. But if you remove the forests from a continent, the sea starts drawing moisture from the land. So not only do we reduce the amount of rainfall globally, which is we're down 50% in precipitation globally, you know, you're also dehydrating your land. So another way of looking at trees is they're water. If you want to protect water, which is my passion, we got to bring back the trees. We got to bring back the forests. And in fact, we can't lose them in the first place. Like TreeSisters work, what I was asked to do, I was asked to help people start reforesting. Every single person that watches this, if you're not planting tropical trees, if you're not cleaning up the carbon that you're emitting on a daily basis while we watch the juggernaut of climate change come towards us, you know, what are you doing? You know, the least we can do is clean up the carbon that we're emitting. And fast-growing tropical trees sequester it, you know, 3 to 9 times as fast as temperate trees. And on the coal face of like climate extreme in the tropics is where we can get trees into the ground faster and sequester more carbon while we figure out how to wean ourselves off these lifestyles that are fundamentally destructive and convenience oriented. So these trees that we are losing, you know, The Amazon rainforest is the size of the face of the moon. The activity of that transpiration, the trees sucking the water through their, Gaia using trees at her hottest area to actually draw water and filter water, that up and down and up and down is a heartbeat. It's called the biotic pump. It's the momentum of energy, heat-driven and water-driven energy, that allows these colossal flying rivers that are bigger than any terrestrial river to distribute rainfall around the planet. Like, these are not just trees. These are like, it's like removing the brain and the liver and the circulatory system and the immune system and the lungs of a human being and expecting them to continue. That's what's happening when we strip our forests. Like, we're killing ourselves. We're killing our world. Like, it's not just 95% of all biodiversity on the planet lives inside our forests. It's the function that they do in terms of cooling, hydrating, cleansing, the aerosols that they give off, which are our immune system, the layer of fungi that we're killing through all the weathering that we're doing with heavy metals. That fungal layer is like the bacterial layer on our own skins. Like, why are the trees dying? Because we're killing the fungi. Why are the trees dying? Because we're making it impossible for them to stay. Can we let this happen? We can't let this happen. So I am just going to give you a little gift from the trees, and I'll be swift about it, but I'm hoping it will help you digest some of this year and lay yourself bare for 2021, because may 2021 be the year where our neuroticism loses forever and our brilliance has the chance to shine forward, laced with our courage. So let's close our eyes for a minute. Find yourself barefoot in the forest, any forest. It's warm, it's glorious. You're safe. Nature is fully present to you. Notice warm mulch under bare feet. Smell the fragrances, the many rich, wild fragrances. Feel the warmth on your skin. Listen for the buzz of insects, for the song of the birds, the symphony of the forest. You're wearing a heavy coat. That coat is what we think it means to be human. We know nothing about what we really are. I'm going to invite you to imagine that you're like just shifting it, going, oh God, this is so limited. And you're just going to drop it on the floor. Just let go of the lie of limited humanity. Drop it on the floor and let Gaia compost it. Just stand there in unknowing. And in your unknowing, know that right down beneath your feet, you already have a root system. That the energy of your body extends way below your feet down into the earth. And imagine that intricate, curious, tender root system that is available to everything, just going down, wrapping itself around the root systems of trees, around rocks, tasting the underground water. Just feel your energy going down, down and down. Let it be pleasurable. You are extended as far down below the ground as you are above. And you can just feel this core axis, this vertical axis of your own body, like the trunk of your own tree. Just feel the straightness of yourself above ground. And then imagine that you actually have your arms spread out in countless ways, that you are, in fact, a tree spread out with your hands to the heavens, and every one of your arms is saying yes to the sky. And every one of your arms and your fingertips, your countless fingertips and your leaf tips is being kissed by the sky, is in a dance of delicious intimacy. You're given. You're just given. You're given to the mystery of the cosmos. You're given to starlight and moonlight and sunlight and rain and wind and lightning. You're just given. Just feel what that's like to just be given. And there's all the experiences that we've had this year. There's been all the awakenings, all the agonies, all the stretching, all the uncertainty, all the trauma, all the intimacy and beauty and love and awakening as we come into 2020 vision around social justice and climate change and bizarre politics and weird leadership and everything else that we've had. And just feel yourself drawing away from your leaf tips down into your core, like come back from your leaf tips, like, okay, we've done that. We've done 2020. We've done this version of humanity. We've done this version of ourselves. And as you start to come back into your core, just let your leaves fall. Just drop 2020 and drop yourself, this version of you. Just let it all fall and feel yourself coming down, back into your center and back down, 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 down into the darkness of your root system. The trees teach us how to let go. The trees teach us how to root. They teach us how to rest. They teach us how to do everything fully. But as we head towards the darkening in the northern hemisphere, that is an invitation from life to let go of what we've known, to drop into our roots, to go sub-ground, into the dark, where we're not supposed to know anything, where we can gestate. Just sink down below the surface into the dark, where you can go, okay, I don't need to know anything. Just drop it all. It's gone. It's all gone. Now I go into the darkness. Now I go into the nutritive soup. Now I go into the dreaming. Now I go into complete humility before life. Because if I stop thinking I know what I am, life can teach me who I am. Just rest in the dark. Our world does not allow periods of dormancy, but we need dormancy. The feminine principle, the mystery, the darkness, the in-breath, the nighttime, the winter, the resting, the fallow, the dreaming. In the deep dark, you are available for the kiss of the cosmos, the limitless intelligence of creation. You can spread out and become the darkness of underground, and you can become a prayer to the cosmos, which is very simple. Show me.
Clare, thank you.
Short and simple.
Thank you for the way that you've, I think, illumined the synergy between the feminine and the masculine, you know, that we receive from our feminine and it activates naturally our masculine. And I was also very struck when you said that if you see truth but you don't feel it, you won't take action. I think that is so, so true. And it's our feminine side that feels the, you know, the intimacy and the embodiment and the pathos. And so you've really, really consecrated 2020 for us. And I just want to thank you for that. It was very profound and very brilliant and very penetrating.
Thank you.
And reverential to the sanctity of trees. They deeply carry us. We breathe with them. You know, we have a deep symbiotic relationship with them that we squander to our cost. So thank you so much. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you for receiving me. And, you know, to me, it feels like the biggest secret. It's just such a secret. It's a ridiculous secret. That if you let nature in, if you dare to feel how much you love, if you dare to let her in, which includes the agony of her demise, which will move you into action. But if you let her in and you feel that level of belonging, it's like she's waiting all the time. Can you see me? Can you feel me? Can you see me? Can you feel me? And it's just like when you finally turn around and go, yes, there's this currency of intimacy that literally removes neuroticism. You know, you don't need therapy when you belong to the planet because you're not alone anymore. You're not inhabited by all the fears that hold us back, because it's like suddenly you're plugged in to the mainframe and you're part of, and you're not alone, and you're completely supported, and it's no longer about you, because in that place of communion, it's no longer about you, because you is so much more. You is it all. You can't do power over in a place of communion. There's only power through. And you know where that power is coming from. It's coming from Gaia. It's coming from life. And therefore, it's life empowering life. That's what's available to us. You know, we think we're going to think our way out of this, or technology our way out of this. We're going to intimacy our way out of this. Exactly. We're going to love our way out of this. You have to let go of what we think we are, so that what we actually are takes over, and with it comes a version of humanity that is reverent and therefore cannot destroy life. And on a very, very practical note, bringing trees into your life through TreeSisters, through an organization like ourselves that are planting all across the world through our planting partners, you can grow a forest every month, and then you can start to know, I am transforming the world. I'm protecting endangered species. I'm sequestering carbon. I'm producing oxygen. I'm producing rainfall. I'm helping people in extreme poverty. You know, I'm protecting lemurs and jaguars and ocelots and monkeys and endangered trees and elephants and sloths and rhinos and like all these fish eagles and lemurs, and, you know, it's all there. You can be doing that whilst you try and figure out how to let go of who you're not. But don't wait. Our planet is calling now. Our forests need us now. Our awakening environmentally has to happen now. We don't get a second chance. We can't put her back on her throne. Like, it's now. You're needed now. Your generosity is needed now. We need you. She needs you. You know, rise and answer the call, please. TreeSisters.org/give. Give back. That's the dance of reciprocity. You have to make it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take nature for granted. That's what I heard at the car crash. Become a reciprocal species, a restorer species. It's the only way to drop the lie of being consumers, with not what humanity is. We're not here to shop ourselves into extinction. We're not going out on shopping. That's not what we're about to do.
Yeah.
Let's astonish ourselves. Let's give back.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. What a perfect ending to 2020. You brought Humanity Rising to a pitch perfect closure. And now, everyone, we would like to offer you just a little holiday gift, a little celebration with a song. I don't know whether Franz is able to make it through, but we just wanted to end with just a little bit of a song in celebration of the holidays. Franz?
Come on, let's have technology work this time.
Yeah, come on, Franz.
Hey.
We see the top of your head. Can we see the rest of you? Are you there? Maybe it's not him.
Yeah.
It's him.
Jim?
Hold on a second. Let's just give him a chance. He's muted. Keep.
Franz, are you with us? Franz?
His mic is open, Jim.
But he hasn't appeared.
The top of his head is.
No, that's my head.
Yeah, I think he's having difficulty with his video.
Yeah, let's just close out, Rick. Okay. Franz, we'll get you in the new year. But thank you, everyone. This has been a beautiful session. It's drawn our year to a close with an absolutely sublime message of real depth. And I hope everyone contributes to TreeSisters. I hope everyone, as you celebrate, whatever it is, the Christmas tree or the Hanukkah wreath, or however it is that you interact with nature and trees over the next few weeks, that you remember deeply what Clare Dubois has offered us. It's been deeply.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim, so much thank you for letting me be me. Thank you for what matters to me, which is the individual transformation of a human being and the liberation of our collective soul back into relationship with life. I can talk about trees, but what I really deeply, deeply love to do is to try to help turn the key inside a human soul. And you really let me do that today. And I'm so incredibly grateful. And I just want to say to everybody, please don't do wrapping paper and Christmas cards and all the cardboard crap this Christmas. Just think about what you're wrapping your presents in and whether or not you want to throw our forests away. I know it's a glib thing to say, but it's not glib. The amount of waste at Christmas is terrifying, when actually you could just go to TreeSisters and send an e-card and plant some trees. Like, just give the gift of trees. Let your giving to your beloved ones be the gift of trees for their future. Like, let's plant the future. Let's do something that is genuinely meaningful. Let us grow you a forest. Let us grow your company a forest. Let us grow everybody a forest. And let's do it together, mindfully, consciously, and with huge gratitude for the ones who've given us everything, the air that we breathe, everything, our lives.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Clare. And we'll see you on the 11th of January as we'll commence 2021. And between now and then, over the next 30 days, reverence nature, love the people that you're with, be respectful of the pandemic, stay safe, stay healthy, and above all things, give thanks for this beautiful world. that is working in every way that she can to reveal the future through us. Thank you, everyone. See you next year.